Outlaw Star is an awesome ride, and anyone who's a fan of anime should hop on board because even if you end up not liking the trip, you're going to find out what influenced the anime y'all pimp on a daily basis. So strap yourselves in because this is going to be a hellishly dense episode. When this ran on Adult Swim, I wasn't exactly allowed to watch this. I'll let you guess my age at the time, but summer vacation nights and midnight runs made many things possible. It was originally released in 1998 by Studio Sunrise. Sunrise is one of the oldest, most influential OG companies in anime history. Originally starting by staff departing Osamu Tezuka's Mushi production, it became one of anime's most successful and ambitious pioneers. They are responsible for more anime that I could name in an episode and still remain the same age. They specified mostly in space and robot anime, which comprised some of the most difficult styles of its era, yet one of the most profitable, creating the original run of Gundam and pretty much every subsequent series in the franchise to this day. And many of the people who started their careers here went on to create other influential anime studios like Bones, A1 Pictures, Studio Bridge, and If you aren't a fan of space westerns like Trigun or aren't particularly a fan of the genre, this is going to feel like the creators smoked a shit ton of crack and marathon Ghost in the Shell while attempting to adapt Frank Herbert's Dune into an anime series. I'd actually watch that. However, if you love these stories, this probably is the most influential anime of this genre's era alongside Cowboy Bebop. Though Bebop and Star's differences in import is highly debated amongst critics and fans, what is even more interesting about Sunrise is that they produced both series. Not only that, but in the same damn year. How the fuck do y'all do it, huh? How do you create two classic series and influence the whole of an art form in the same breath? Shit. Though I prefer Bebop more and I'll explain why, but this is a damn adventure. The series was directed by Mitsuru Hongo, and honestly, the only other project in his filmography that I've had a chance to invest time in is Immortal Grand Prix, just because it played on Cartoon Network when I was younger. And I remember it being a decent show, but then again, that's when any taste in anything was still maturing in me. But I've heard quite a bit about his new series, World Trigger, which concluded last year, so I'll probably give something the academia treatment sooner or later. Writing was primarily handled by Katsuhiko Chiba, who is known mostly for his composition on these, otherwise penning the Megumi Paradise OVA and writing for a handful of series like Inuyasha and Shaman King. This remains the best work the dude has constructed to this day in my opinion. Outlaw Star is a uniquely crafted story thrown into a hack-jawed smoothie of various genres and styles from all over the goddamn place. On its surface, it plays as a hodgepodge of old-school allegories from the American Wild West set against a melodramatic space opera, with pitch-black comedy, mech battles, and cat people. However, while dissecting its themes and archetypes, we can find that its core thematic elements are heavily influenced by several very distinct areas of storytelling. It has aspects of genres railing from the Wandering Ronin, psychological horror, and platonic technocracy. Yeah, look that term up, it's a fun one. But most consistently, it sports a constant philosophical argument between two schools of thought that are fun to put into an arena against one another: relativist ontology and ethical objectivism. Basically, the idea that truth is always relative and developed through social norms and individual experience is battling against the idea that values and virtues are formed from a truth that is both intrinsic and absolute. This series doesn't present this argument in a way that is always clear or a manner that is void of contradictions, because there are a fuck ton. But that's one of the genius aspects of Outlaw Star, because it throws this uncertain dynamic into another unusual debate: mathematical sociology in relation to individual desire. It's empirical fact versus intuitive interpretation. And when you mix up facts and opinions, and your opinions win out in the moment, even against all odds, where does that leave the actuality of your situation? One of the clearest ways they do convey this conversation is with the opening narrator of every episode. Unlike normal uses of this storytelling feature in most anime, it's constantly questioning the reasons behind the choices of the main characters and casts doubt on even on the most noble of intentions, implying that even if they believe they're on the right side of a conflict, it still inevitably may mean nothing. Even if you find yourself, you may lose your life, and if your life is spared, you may have no reason to keep on living. So what's the point? Is it up to the universe or you? It doesn't try to answer any of these questions, but it places each side on equal footing, so it's up to you to determine which side has more weight. Now, before I move on to the actual execution of the series, I brought up Cowboy Bebop and have to address why I prefer that show over this one. Boiled down, it's because the series have two drastically different tones and ultimate purposes. If you know my taste in anime, given my more favorable reviews, Bebop is better because it's a work that is far more contemplative and introspective in dealing with the complexity of the human experience. It takes its time to dig into its ideas through the collective experience of its characters with an extraordinarily unique style, whereas Star is much more direct and even preachy at times, foregoing extensive introspection in favor of an action-oriented caster shell-written plot. And as a result, Star channels its focus and underlying themes toward an ultimate goal, finding the location and understanding the mystery of the galactic ley line, whereas Bebop's action runs parallel to its main story and theme, not as its catalyst, but as a device to explore the lives of their cast. It isn't necessarily a worse methodology, it's just different. Though Outlaw Star plays like D&D in space. The animation style is quintessential 90s, which obviously makes sense, but also shows the limitations of the work. Though there are some impressive bits of animation, much of the scenes that take place in cities and throughout the various landscapes of the series are garishly flat. The shading and sparse use of parallax coming off more expressionistic than what the creators probably intended, and it ends up cheapening the overall image and mood. The character designs, especially Hilda, come off charming and fun, but also when the series designs turn wonky, so did apparently the budget. And with works like Bebop, Berserk, The End of Evangelion, and Princess Mononoke coming out around this time, a new benchmark in animation in Japan was clearly set. So with the series delving into such complicated themes, and also mainly due to the action-oriented tone and pacing it takes, the animation really doesn't live up to the premise offered, and acts more often as a stumbling block. Hell, comparatively to Cowboy Bebop, it isn't even close to being on par. And it isn't completely bad, you cretins, it's just not as good as what the times demanded. If it were made in the late 80s or early 90s, it would have been a pinnacle of work, but given the time and also other works being produced by Sunrise in the same and immediate subsequent years, it's a story worthy of a better treatment than it got. And there are some aspects of the series that are painfully dated too, like inputting coordinates into an interstellar spaceship's AI navigational system via a fucking floppy disk, and some of my younger subscribers won't even know what the fuck those are. But what really is the linchpin of the series are the characters, and the voice actors playing them.
Where's Malvina? She said she wanted to be alone for a while.
She must be in the bathroom.
The performances give the characters a distinct life of their own, and even if the animation may be middling and the episodic subplots may be a little shallow, the experience we have with these various species and robots is completely valid. These characters are flawed, arrogant, vulnerable, short-sighted, short-tempered, and tactless, but at the same time, they're brashly unashamed of following their dreams and desires to wherever it may lead them, seeking adventure and purpose. Regardless of what these characters might be, they all have similar strengths and weaknesses of the mind, regardless of their technological or physical differences. And just to take a sidestep real quick, this show has one of the greatest opening themes of any anime ever. Like, holy shit. I had this, Sephiroth's theme, some music from Yu-Gi-Oh! Music to Duel By, and The Temptations on constant repeat on one CD. I had eclectic tastes, what can I say? And unlike the last couple series we covered, I can say that the ending theme is perfect. It fits pretty much with the ending of every episode with a contemplative understanding that just fits. Sure, other series with chaotic storylines I have not been as kind to, but that just works to further the series' benefit. They managed to make something that, by all accounts of my tastes, shouldn't work, but pull it off with flying colors. Actually, the score overall is pretty damn impressive, sometimes explosive and bombastic, other times restrained and minimalist, but any realm of the spectrum that is utilized is thoroughly effective. Oh, and by the way, the unaired Hot Spring episode is hysterical, ridiculous, and absolutely full of tits. There's even a full Monty which ends in a bomb blowing up what looks like the equivalent of a city block. Yuji Yamaguchi, who would go on to direct I, My, Me, Strawberry Eggs, and Fate Stay Night, was this episode's director, who drastically altered the series with Hanna-Barbera-esque tonal and animation shifts. The characters are suddenly from another anime, and then we return to normal in the next episode. It was cut from the English broadcast obviously for them tiggle biddies, but honestly, out of all the moments I could even come close to considering as filler, this one alters absolutely nothing and is never brought up again. Though honestly, the not bringing up and or learning from past events is common throughout this series. You could weasel in characterization about never learning from mistakes tropes, but I have a sneaky suspicion it was just holes in the story. Which returns us to the core engine for the multifaceted Outlaw Star, the characters. Each one. Jean, Hilda, Jim, Malfina, Aisha, Suzuka, the villains, the episodic extras, the mesh of this interstellar community rife with political strife, speciesism, and unique traditions and myths. The universe feels just so goddamn alive. Each of these characters are a goldmine for archetypes and morality play, each having a rainbow of reasons to be crewing the partially autonomous ship. And I would have to say that my favorite relationship in the show is between Jean and the ship's computer Gilliam. They represent the opposite without being an antagonistic cliche. Jean is the outlaw, free and self-fulfilling, not within the bounds of law or social order, but self-regulated by a deep-set moralistic code which gets him deeper into trouble more than it solves problems. Gillian replicates the tone of the narrator throughout the misguided adventures of the cast. He repeatedly points out the recklessness of the main players and makes completely valid points of contention, the neglect of which severely affects the crew. He appears to be the only sane brain among them. But this duality brings us back full swing into the core battle of philosophy at the heart of the anime, and it leaves it up to the viewer to determine what is the right course of action. Or, really, it leaves it up to the viewer to take the chance, roll the dice, and see how you can create your own destiny, just like Jean and the gang. It's a mixed bag that may appear a mess, but also it shines bright as a beacon for other series to follow. Maybe not for the animation, but for the argument and the vitality of the characters. And a special thanks goes out to Alex for requesting this and wanting an episode on this one, so thank you. So, who's going to be the next round? Blood C. Oh.